isn't truly silent. To just carefully and thoughtfully list, what are the costs right now? How is it showing up? And what is the default future if this continues to go undiscussed? That's what you and I are doing in the world. What we're trying to help people do is take a more mental, conscious calculus of the real costs of the decisions they're currently making. What you and I know is that crucial conversations aren't just a pit. They aren't just a problem to get over. They actually have the potential of becoming one of the accelerants of intimacy. Crucial conversations, well held, accelerate the building of trust between individuals. They not only don't damage it, they actually create a sense of connection with people that can't come most any other way. And yet, here's how we continue to look at them. The contribution you and I are trying to make to the world is to help them understand that it's the pathway to the super awesome goal, not just something that keeps us from it. So the first big idea that we came across was this: the vital behavior that enables most any organizational outcome is just candor. It's just showing up in those moments. And you've seen the research across so many different domains. You and I are saving lives. We're saving relationships. We're reconnecting families. We're building teams and organizations just by getting to look at that one moment a little bit differently. This has mattered to Vital Smarts as well. I remember the moment that I believed we could make it as a company. It's because after the Crucial Conversations book came out, there was a moment at which Yan Wang, our CFO, who comes from a tradition and background that does not encourage candor with people in positions of authority, it took immense effort for her to approach Al Switzler and say to him, you know, Al, you've been taking books along on all of the book tour things and selling them at the back of the room to try to help promote things, and that's really well and good. But when you come back with a whole bunch of written credit card numbers and checks, it takes more time for us to process those than it's worth for the money. Perhaps you ought to just give the books away. After she finished that feedback to Al, it looked like she wanted to throw up. That was challenging. It was terrifying for her, and none of us could have been prouder of her. She set a tone for Vital Smarts. She helped us turn the corner and start becoming that kind of organization. We don't always show up perfectly, but we try hard because we know these moments are our lifeblood as well. So what you and I are trying to fix is that dynamic. Now, the last piece I want to do is just tie together a couple of those other threads. So it's December 28th, 2009. And I rolled down the window and I said, Patrick, would you just get in the car? After a couple minutes, he looked defeated, but he got in the car. We drove back to our house and I walked him down to the basement and I sat him in front of a television screen. I put a videotape in and I prepared to push play, but I said, Patrick, before I show you this, I said, I need to ask you a question. He was looking at the ground, just absolutely mortified in this moment. I said, Patrick, would you look me in the eye for just a moment, because I need to know that you hear me. So he finally, with great effort, locked on my eyes. And I said, Patrick, do you know that I love you? His eyes welled up with tears instantly. He said, yes, I do. I said, Patrick, do you know that I would never do anything if I didn't think it was in your best interests? His shoulders started to heave and convulse. And he said, yes, I do. I said, good. Then I need you to look at something. And I just played the security footage, at which point he started heaving and convulsing openly, sobbing. He said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I said, Patrick, I understand. But I need you to understand that I don't think I would be your friend if I didn't let you be held accountable for what you did to me and what you did to my family. I've turned this over to the police, and I know they'd like to talk with you. But that's your choice. It's up to you whether you make contact with them or not. What penetrated my soul was that his response, rather than defensiveness and rather than attack, was to say, I know I need to go to jail, but will you be there for me when I get out? And through my own tears, I said, Patrick, I will always be here for you. What we've learned along the way, as Al, Carrie, Ron, David, and myself have gone through our own crucial conversations, is that you don't have to choose between telling the truth and keeping a friend. It turns out that if people feel safe, you can speak truth. They may not like it. They may not enjoy it. It may cause pain and suffering for them, but at least they'll be able to hear it. The second gift you and I are trying to give to the world, in addition to noticing that these moments require a different kind of risk calculus than we've been doing throughout history, the second thing we're trying to help them do is to transcend that horrible dichotomy that they've been carrying since they were 3 years old. To for once realize that the problem is not the choice between telling the truth and keeping the friend. The problem is trying to figure out how to do both. And if all you and I ever do in our training is just help people to reframe the question, to say, how could I show up in this moment in a way that's absolutely honest and absolutely respectful, we will have done our job. And we will have changed lives, and we will have changed organizations. Candor isn't the problem. The problem is a lack of safety. And you and I are helping the world to understand that if you can create a context of safety in the Middle East, in war-torn countries, in the US, in divided cities, if you and I can help people just understand that if you can create a safe place to get honesty in the open, that intimacy accelerates, that connection is possible, then we will have done our jobs. So I'm laying down on the couch. And I'm imagining how the next morning I'll get this well-deserved apology, but I didn't. Instead, we went to this plastic kind of fake civility routine, and the kids who were sitting around having breakfast, and I'm sort of pulling her chair out, and she's getting me the milk, and we're both acting polite like we kind of moved on past the moment. And that kind of disconnected insincerity went on all day long until that night. And I decided the best way to advance her education would be to sleep with her that night. And so I went in, I used the toothbrush, I wiped down the mirror, made sure she saw me doing it, and very self-righteously got in bed. She finished her bathroom stuff, she got in bed. Both of us respected the DMZ sitting there in between us, and she said, "Good night, honey." I said, "Good night, honey." She clicked off the light, and I lay down there, and I thought to myself, my goal is to go to sleep faster than her. Because then she'll be writhing in agony and realizing I've moved on, and then she'll probably look at herself and her fallen ways and apologize. So I'm laying there kind of psyching myself into relaxation when I hear this. And I'm telling you, I've grown a little bit emotionally since then, but I still identify with the feelings. I felt this white hot rage shoot through my body. I'm laying there thinking, you don't even realize how much you've mistreated me, do you? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how did I end up with her, right? And I'm going over and over in my mind all the wrongs and how mistreated I am in this relationship when after a while I looked over at the clock and it had been like 2 hours. And the moon finally comes down through the window and bathes her hideous face in its glow. And I literally looked at her and I couldn't imagine one redeeming quality this woman had. And as this kind of feeling is surging through me, finally this thought comes galloping towards me from off at the distance. And I saw it coming, recognized it, tried to dodge it. But it finally snuck around the other side, went into my ear, and the question was, what am I acting like I want? And what do I really want? And you know what? As soon as I relaxed into that question, that fast, this picture came into my mind. And the picture was when I'd come home from a trip earlier that week, I walked in, and she just looked over at me and smiled. And I felt connected, and I felt home, and I felt loved. And I surrendered to that. And I said, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. And you know what? I looked over at her, and she looked entirely different. She was beautiful. And I could remember everything that made me love her. And I slipped into slumber. And the next morning, the alarm goes off, and I woke up, but the sun looked brighter that day. And I looked over at her, but you could see the instant she remembered the mode we were in the night before, because her shoulders stiffened and she slid off the bed and she walked over and went to go into the bathroom. And I said, Selah, I'm sorry. I said, I wasted the last 48 hours, and I wish I could have them back. She said, I'm sorry, and I want to hear everything that's on your mind and concerning you whenever you'd like to talk. She paused for just a moment, and I could see when it sort of got absorbed in her too, because her shoulders dropped about 2 inches. She turned around, sat on the edge of the bed, and we talked. It turns out that the way you see others during those crucial moments is less a reflection of who they are and more of a reflection of what we want. When our motives are bad, we can't even see people for what they are. What you and I know is that all it takes to get truth on the table is just a little bit of safety. It's just an apology. It's just a smile. It's just a hug. It's just taking something back. It takes very little, but people aren't willing to do it if they don't realize that you can transcend that false trade-off between telling the truth and keeping a friend. It is immensely gratifying to be part of this work with you. We hope you feel of our love and support for you. These are the big ideas that we're trying to take out into the world. When we were in the white Volkswagen van, you were just a gleam in our eye. But we're glad you're now part of the family. Thank you very much.